So, you did it. You actually did the work. You read the books, you sat in the discomfort, you faced your own shadow and wrestled with the parts of yourself you'd rather have ignored. You meticulously, painfully stripped away the masks you'd been wearing your entire life. You thought that becoming authentic, that finally allowing the real you to step into the light, would set you free. You imagined that people would finally see you, truly see you, and they would respect you for it. That they would love the version of you that was no longer performing for their approval. But then, something else happened instead, didn't it? The room changes when you walk in now. You can feel it. It's not something you can prove, not something you can point to, but it's as real as the air you breathe. There's a sudden drop in atmospheric pressure, a subtle shift in energy that only you seem to notice. Conversations that were flowing with easy laughter a moment ago become stilted, cautious. Smiles that used to be warm and genuine become a little tighter, a little more forced. Eyes that used to meet yours with casual intimacy now dart away, finding the pattern on the carpet absolutely fascinating. You feel it, that invisible wall that wasn't there before, that low-grade, unspoken rejection that no one will ever name. And at first you tell yourself you're imagining it. You must be. You're just being paranoid or overly sensitive. After all, you're finally being real. Isn't that what everyone says they want? In every podcast, on every talk show, in every inspirational quote, the message is the same. Be authentic, be true, be genuine. But here is the brutal truth. The fine print that the self-help books and the spiritual gurus never warn you about. When you stop performing, you force everyone else to confront their own performance. When you take off your mask, you become a living, breathing mirror. And most people absolutely hate what they see reflected back at them. They don't actually hate you. They hate what you represent. They hate the mirror you've become. See, for years, you were safe. You were predictable. You were a known quantity. You played your role in their life script absolutely perfectly. You were the friend who never rocked the boat, the one who would absorb the tension and smooth things over. You were the colleague who would just smile and nod through the blatant unfairness, never causing a problem. You were the family member who would swallow their own truth, bite their tongue until it bled just to keep the fragile, unspoken peace. You were a reliable, supporting actor in everyone else's story, a human shock absorber, the keeper of their comfortable narratives. You never threatened their carefully constructed world with your own inconvenient reality. But now you're awake. Now you speak up when your old self would have remained silent. Now you say no, and you actually mean it without a 10-page explanation attached. Now you admit to feeling things, insecurity, confusion, disappointment that other people in your circle are desperately pretending don't even exist. And with every single authentic word you speak, with every boundary you hold, you are chipping away at the delicate architecture of pretense that holds their entire social world together. And they feel it. They feel it on a deep, visceral level. Your presence has weight now. Your words land with a different kind of gravity. Your silence, once just an absence of noise, now speaks volumes. You have become unpredictable, uncontrollable, unmanageable. You have become real. And reality? is the one thing most people
Let's
spend their
begin.
entire lives engineering elaborate and exhausting ways to avoid. So, naturally, when you become a conduit of reality, they start to avoid you instead. They'll never say it to your face, of course. That would be far too authentic. Instead, they'll smile. They'll make vague plans they have no intention of keeping. "We should totally get together soon" becomes a conversational dead end you both know leads nowhere. They will slowly, quietly, and politely fade from your life, all while insisting that nothing has changed, if you were ever to ask. But you know better. You can feel the shift. You can feel the cooling of the connection, the careful, calculated distance they now maintain, a social quarantine to protect them from the contagion of your truth. This is the price of waking up in a world that is still sound asleep. This is the lonely, confusing blowback that happens when you stop being who others need you to be and you start, finally, being who you actually are. It's a profound and disorienting form of grief, mourning the loss of relationships you thought were real, only to discover they were conditional upon you remaining small. The question is, are you prepared for what comes next? Because this is just the beginning. It often gets worse before it gets better. And understanding the psychological game being played, the unconscious moves and countermoves happening just beneath the surface, might be the only thing that keeps you from desperately reaching for that old familiar mask again. Picture the scene. You're at a dinner with a group of old friends, the kind of gathering that used to be a source of comfort and easy familiarity. The conversation flows along its usual well-worn grooves. There are complaints about work, disguised as dark humor, a form of shared commiseration that never actually seeks a solution. There's gossip about mutual acquaintances, wrapped in a thin, transparent veil of concern. There are vague, misty dreams diluted into someday fantasies that everyone knows will never be acted upon. It's a script, a comfortable, predictable performance that you all used to know by heart. But you've changed. You no longer reflexively laugh at the jokes that punch down or find their humor in casual cruelty. You don't nod along enthusiastically to the gossip, adding your own little tidbit to keep the story going. And when someone turns to you and asks that perfunctory question, "So, how are you?" you make a different choice. You tell them. You actually tell them the truth. Not the rehearsed one-word social contract, "fine." You give them the real answer. "Honestly, I've been struggling a bit lately with feeling disconnected." Or, "Actually, I'm feeling really hopeful about a new project, but also terrified." You offer a small piece of your genuine human experience, and the table goes quiet. A thick, awkward, almost buzzing silence descends. It's not quiet because what you said was shocking or inappropriate. It's quiet because you just shattered the unspoken agreement, the foundational treaty of most social circles, which states we all pretend together, we all perform together, we all agree to stay safely paddling in the shallow end of the pool together, and we will never, ever mention the terrifyingly deep ocean just a few feet away. Your authenticity didn't insult them, it exposed them. The great psychoanalyst Carl Jung understood this process with piercing clarity. He said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." But here's the critical part. Most people don't want that understanding. They want comfort. They want the familiar, choreographed dance of mutual deception. And when you suddenly stop dancing, when you stand still in the middle of the dance floor, you become dangerous. Not because you're trying to hurt anyone, but because your very existence is now asking a question they are desperate to avoid. Why are you still pretending? Think about it like a grand masquerade ball, a ballroom filled with people, all wearing elaborate, beautifully crafted masks. Everyone knows they're wearing masks. In fact, everyone has implicitly agreed to spend the entire evening pretending that the masks are their real faces. It's a game. It's comfortable. It's safe. It's predictable. Then you walk in, having left your mask at home, with your actual naked face showing, with all its lines, its imperfections, its raw and honest expressions. Suddenly, everyone in that room becomes acutely, uncomfortably aware of the weight and constriction of their own mask. They feel the way it itches. They notice how it suffocates them. They are reminded, in a way they can't ignore, of the lie they are living. And in that moment, they have two fundamental choices. Either be inspired by your courage and take their own masks off too, or, the much, much easier option, make you the problem. Guess which one they almost always choose? They'll start with subtle dismissals, often disguised as friendly advice or light-hearted teasing. You're being a little too serious lately. Lighten up. Can't you just relax and have fun anymore? Why do you have to make everything so deep all the time? These aren't genuine observations about your character. They are defensive maneuvers. They are unconscious attempts to shame you back into the comfortable performance of superficiality. They are trying to get you to put your mask back on so they can feel comfortable with theirs again. And when that doesn't work, when you gently hold your ground, they'll often escalate the campaign. They'll start to mock your growth. They'll roll their eyes at your newfound insights. They'll make little inside jokes with others at your expense, referencing your journey or your phase. They will try to recruit others to their side, creating a social consensus, a mini cult whose primary belief is that you're the one who's lost, not the one who's been found. But watch their eyes when they do it. Look closely, past the smirk and the dismissive gesture, because behind the mockery, behind the eye-rolling, you'll almost always see something else. Fear. And maybe, if you look close enough, just a flicker of envy, a flash of recognition that you have found a kind of freedom, a kind of solidity that they are still desperately, quietly searching for in the dark. You see, on some deep, instinctual level, everyone knows they're performing. Everyone feels the soul-crushing exhaustion of maintaining their carefully curated facade. Everyone has those quiet, terrifying moments at 3 a.m. when the house is dark and the world is asleep, when the mask finally slips from their tired grasp and they catch a horrifying glimpse of their real, unedited face in the darkness. But most people have built their entire lives on top of that performance. Their romantic relationships depend on it. Their professional identity is inextricably woven through it. Their very sense of safety and belonging in the world requires it. So when you show up, authentic and unmasked, you're not just showing them another more fulfilling way to live. You are, in effect, holding up a structural survey that reveals that the entire foundation of their life might be built on sand. Is it any wonder they react as if you are a fundamental threat? Because to their ego, to their carefully constructed world, you are. Your authenticity is a walking, talking advertisement for a life they are too terrified to even consider living. Your freedom only serves to highlight their own imprisonment. Your truth illuminates their lies. And rather than face the excruciating, ego-shattering pain of their own awakening, they will channel all of that frantic, defensive energy into trying to convince you, and more importantly, to convince themselves that you're the one who's gone crazy. Now here's where the psychological game gets really twisted and difficult to navigate. They can't attack you for being authentic. That would require them to admit that they're the ones who are not. So instead, they have to attack you for what your authenticity represents in their own wounded mind. They engage in a form of psychic jujitsu, where every accusation they throw at you is actually a confession about themselves. When they say, "You've changed," what they are really saying is, "You're not playing the game by the old unspoken rules anymore, and it terrifies me because I don't know the new ones." When they say, "You think you're better than everyone now," the silent, painful translation is, "Your growth is making me painfully aware of my own stagnation, and I resent you for it." When they accuse you of being so intense lately, what they are truly communicating is, "Your depth reveals my own shallowness, and I would rather you go back to being shallow so I don't have to feel this." And the classic, the one you will hear over and over again, "You used to be more fun," is the easiest one of all to decode. You used to be a reliable and entertaining distraction who helped me avoid myself. And now that you've stopped, I'm uncomfortably alone with my own emptiness. This is the psychological defense mechanism of projection in its purest, most raw and desperate form. They are no longer seeing you at all. They are seeing a blank screen, and onto that screen they are projecting every single thing they have rejected in themselves, everything they're too afraid to face, everything they have buried under years and years of social conditioning and quiet self-betrayal. You have become a walking, talking, breathing reminder of their own abandoned authenticity. And here's the brutal truth. The more authentic and integrated you become, the more distorted and aggressive their projection often gets, because the greater the gap between who you are and who they're pretending to be, the more existentially threatened they feel. It's exactly like being the only sober person at a party full of raging drunks. Your very presence, your clarity, your simple state of being becomes an uncomfortable, unspoken accusation. Your peace feels like a judgment. Your truth feels like a personal attack. But you're not doing anything to them. You are simply being. And in that moment, that is the one thing they cannot forgive you for. Watch how they will create entire elaborate narratives about you to make themselves feel better. Stories to explain away your transformation in a way that doesn't implicate them. "Oh, she's just going through something. He's lost right now. He's trying to find himself." Anything, absolutely anything, to avoid acknowledging the terrifying possibility that maybe, just maybe, you've already found yourself, and they are the ones who are still profoundly, painfully lost. They will diagnose you with problems you don't have. They will accuse you of feeling emotions you're not feeling. They will assign you motivations that exist only in their own wounded imagination. You're just angry at the world. No, you just stopped pretending the world is fine. You're pushing everyone away. No, you just stopped pulling everyone close at your own expense. You're being selfish. No, you just stopped setting yourself on fire to keep others warm. Every accusation is a confession. Every criticism is a mirror. Every attack is an admission of their own unbearable pain. Because here's what is really happening on an energetic, psychological level. Your authenticity is triggering their shadow. all the parts of themselves that they have disowned, rejected, and buried. You are bringing them bubbling up to the surface just by existing. The confident way you now move through the world reminds them of the confidence they surrendered long ago. The clear boundaries you now maintain remind them of all the times they betrayed themselves by saying yes when they meant no. The truth you now speak reminds them of all the lies they still tell themselves every single day. You are not trying to trigger anyone. You are not walking around psychoanalyzing people or pointing out their masks. You are just living. But when you live authentically in a world of performers, your very existence becomes a confrontation. And rather than thank you for the wake-up call, they will try to crucify you for disturbing their sleep. This is the projection game. And once you understand how it's played, once you truly see the mechanics of it, you will never, ever take their reactions personally again. Because it was never, ever about you. It was always about what you represent, the terrifying, beautiful possibility they're still too afraid to embrace for themselves.